In the last episode, we talked about how Zhuangzi realized freedom through doing nothing and settling down. But freedom is not something that can be obtained by letting go of everything, it is an inner state. Today we are going to talk about one of the most central elements of Zhuangzi's thought, mindfulness and freedom. Have you ever felt irritable, anxious, and emotionally up and down? According to Zhuangzi, if a person cannot be at ease with his or her mind, he or she will never have true freedom. Zhuangzi tells us that true freedom is not about doing whatever you want, but about being open to what you want even when you don't want it. So how do we get there? That's right, it starts with cultivating the mind. To cultivate the mind is to go back to your heart and find your voice that has been covered by the noise. Zhuangzi said that what really traps a person is not the voice, not the world, but your heart that is always being led. You are anxious about exams, afraid of comparison, worried about failure, and even feel oppressed by the fact that you have to work hard in order to be worthwhile. These are the shackles of materialization. Therefore, the freedom advocated by Zhuangzi is not the superficial freedom of action, but the freedom of the mind. If the mind is chained, even if you can do everything, you are still not free. In Zhuangzi's view, freedom is never about not working, not studying, not caring about things, but about being able to settle one's heart in the midst of the hustle and bustle of society. He suggests that in order to realize doing nothing, one must first be undisturbed. In order to be at peace with one's life, one must be at peace with one's mind. The root of all this is to cultivate the mind, recognize the self, and return to the nature. So how do we untie the mind? How can we be alone in a noisy world? The answer given by Zhuangzi is very clear. Retreat from the outside and rebuild from the inside. The first step in Zhuangzi's free thought is to exclude all things, that is, not to be bound by worldly standards and external evaluations. There are two important concepts here, sitting in oblivion and mindfulness. Sitting in oblivion means letting go of all boundaries of morality, identity, logic and even ego. Heart fasting means setting up an empty room in the heart, inviting all distractions out and leaving only oneself to live with heaven and earth. Each of us is living in an era of information explosion. External objects are like a big invisible net that slowly binds us. Sometimes you feel like you're trying your hardest, but in fact you're just trying to meet other people's expectations. Over time, we become anxious, tired, and even doubtful of ourselves. Zhuangzi said, if you are always influenced by external things, your freedom is just an illusion. That's why he suggests an important starting point: exclude external objects and return to the heart. This doesn't mean that you have to stray away and live in seclusion, but learn to maintain a sense of distance from the world. Not everything has to be responded to, not everything is worth your energy. Zhuangzi proposed, sitting in oblivion, to put it bluntly, is a kind of spiritual limit of severance. It is not about relationships, but about your attachment to many concepts. The first step is to forget about benevolence and righteousness. It is not for you to stop talking about morality, but to remind you, don't be tied down by the framework of morality. The second step is to forget about rituals and music. This is about letting go of social norms. Don't buy into the template for success. Step 3, forget the body. It's not about staying up all night and destroying your health, it's about the fact that your body is a part of you, but it's not all of you. Finally, forget about thinking. This level is the hardest. Can you say to yourself when your mind can't stop, enough, be quiet? Zhuangzi's pursuit of sitting and forgetting is not a blank head, but no longer obsessed with how you must think, how you must do, so that you are like water, quiet but powerful, soft but free. When you can really sit and forget the moment, you are not no self, but to get a broader self. If sitting in oblivion is to free us from external interference, heart fasting is to let us regain our own clear state of mind. Zhuangzi said, heart fasting actually means fasting your heart to keep it pure. Heart fasting tells us to be an inner organizer. Every day we clean our hearts, which emotions to let go of, which obsessions to throw away. Some people ask, does that mean becoming indifferent? No, it's not about not caring, it's about not being disturbed. When your mind is like a calm lake, the reflection of everything can be clearly reflected. Only then can you really see things as they are. With sitting in oblivion and mindfulness, you will no longer be pulled by external objects, but will be moved and determined by your heart. Zhuangzi does not only ask you to be empty, he also wants you to be big. What does big mean? It means that your heart can hold all things in heaven and earth. At this point you no longer fear or complain, because you are interconnected with all things. You hear the wind like your own heartbeat, and see the flowing water like your own thoughts. This state of mind he called Chao Che, waking up early in the morning with a mind that is open to heaven and earth. What Zhuangzi seeks is for us to break away from the small circle of me-centeredness and treat ourselves as a part of the nature of heaven and earth, and the world is as wide as our heart is. He has a famous saying, see the unique. It means that one should touch the world with one's own true feelings. Everything can enter my heart, and I can enter the realm of everything. Zhuangzi said, life and death are all natural ways. If you can laugh today and cry tomorrow, and since both laughing and crying are acceptable, why is life acceptable but death not? Why is life acceptable but death not? In Zhuangzi's worldview, life is just a gust of wind, a cloud, or a drop of water in the universe. It comes by chance, and there is no harm in going. Zhuangzi said that life and death are actually upstream and downstream of the same river of life. He spoke of no ancient or modern, not clinging to the length of time, nor being afraid of an uncertain future. Only when one is not afraid of loss can one understand the preciousness of possession. This is the peak of Zhuangzi's spiritual freedom, to see the moment of life in terms of eternity. There are two kinds of freedom. One is the freedom of the real person. You are no longer swayed by fame, fortune, and public opinion, although you still live in society. The other is the freedom of the free wanderer, completely merging into heaven and earth, unrestrained, and entering into the philosophical sense of the great self. The former is an awakening in reality, the latter a sublimation in spirit. Zhuangzi said, the person who forgets his own self is said to have entered into heaven. If a person can get rid of self-centered desires, evaluations, and anxieties, he or she can transcend the human self-dichotomy and enter the way of heaven. The way is not mysticism, but living in accordance with the rhythm of the world, without unnecessary struggles. You do not run after the world, but the world naturally accepts you. Zhuangzi said in The Theory of Qi Matters, heaven and earth are born alongside me, and all things are one with me. The ultimate form of freedom is when you no longer distinguish between you and the world. I am one with all things, and my heart can hear the stones speak and the stars whisper. In this moment, you gain true freedom. When you can let go of the opposition between man and things, the separation between man, and the conflict between me and the world, you can merge into heaven and earth. No longer anxious about tomorrow, no longer obsessed with winning or losing, no longer trapped in the small compartment of, who must I be? No more anxiety about tomorrow, no more obsessing about winning or losing, no more trapping yourself in a, who must be, compartment. It's not about disconnecting you from the world, it's about teaching you how to live in peace with the world and even become one. After watching this episode, will you want to ask yourself, what is in my heart? Have I given myself an empty space? Zhuangzi tells us that freedom is not about you changing everything, but about you letting go of your obsessions first. Sitting in oblivion and mindfulness are the ways to settle the mind and our entrance to a life of freedom.